Thanks for joining us. Today we are talking to Dave Ihde. Dave has been stricken with ALS, commonly known as Lou Gehrig's disease. Thank you, Dave, for allowing me to talk to you about your illness. You don't look very nervous for never doing this before.
Yes, well, thanks for having me here today to help spread some awareness of this rare and horrible disease. You don't hear much about it until you have it. Then everyone you meet knows or knew somebody with it. And no, I am not nervous. God is with me, so I'll let him do most of the talking.
Yes, well, let's pray he is with all of us. You know, you're right. You don't hear much about ALS. Why do you think that is?
I don't know. I think a lot of people think it died along with Lou Gehrig. It is rare, thank God, and not as widespread as, say, cancer or diabetes, Alzheimer's, and autism. You don't see 10 commercials a day about it on your TV. Anybody can get it though. ALS knows no boundaries. Any age, sex, race, national origin, lifestyle, anybody can get it.
Well, how does one get it? Do they have any idea?
Lots of ideas, just none that are conclusive. People have looked at Lyme disease in its late stages, head trauma, genetics, a family connection, virus, or some dormant environmental exposure that triggers it. Residents of Guam are more likely to get it. They have spoken of inoculations, particularly those given to servicemen and women. We were all guinea pigs for the swine flu vaccination in the 70s. It's been linked to Guillain-Barré, where your antibodies eat your nervous system. My brother had that and he was career Navy. Nobody knows. I did have a tick bite in May prior to all this. I had the bullseye red circle on my left calf and developed a low-grade headache for 2 months. Another reason I went to my family doctor. Had it all day every day, which was very unusual for me. I just do not get headaches. Prior to this, I was barely sick a day in my life. I had the flu at 19 and a kidney stone at 53. I might get a cold every year or two. That's about it. They did the routine Lyme blood tests and didn't find anything.
You mentioned our people in military service. I see you are a veteran of the Air Force. Can you pinpoint any occurrence that you can connect to your diagnosis?
Well, no, not really that I am sure of. I was assigned to a 91st Security Squadron at a Northern Tier base of the Strategic Air Command. Our mission was to guard against the terrorist threat and protect the nuclear weapons-loaded B-52 and fighter aircraft plus the ICBM weapons silos off base. I quickly advanced to an alarm systems monitor and security supervisor in the nuclear weapons underground storage and maintenance area, and then to central control, which deployed security and monitored aircraft movement and ran convoys of nuclear weapons for loading and unloading. I can't say I was ever directly exposed to radiation, but I did work around nuclear weapons my whole 4 years. One thing I was directly exposed to was extreme cold, -20 and worse. Sitting in a converted porta-potty with windows and a Coleman fuel heater for 8 hours guarding the B-52S, and being driven into the cold by the fumes from the burning Coleman gas.
So you think maybe radiation or just being around these weapons all those years may be a contributing factor?
I don't know, and nobody else does either. And that's one of the things with this disease. It starts and progresses in each victim differently. One thing I will mention though is that veterans are twice as likely to contract it than non-veterans, and veterans of either Gulf War are 4 times as likely. And that is why we are always supportive of the Department of Defense Research Initiative. The DoD is heavy into research to a cure. The funding is to be reapproved each year. Last May, over 1,000 pals, person with ALS, thoughts what we call ourselves, came to Washington for our National Advocacy Day and conducted hundreds of face-to-face meetings with members of Congress to ask them to support the DoD initiative to a cure. A lot of younger people are getting it now than before, historically, though it strikes somewhere in a person's 50s.
Well, what's your story? When did you first notice it in yourself? What were your first symptoms?
It was a little over a year ago, the 4th of July 2012. I was at a friend's house to watch the fireworks, and another friend that I hadn't seen for a while asked if my voice had changed. And it had. I noticed for a bit before that I was slurring my speech occasionally. Certain sounds like G's and K's were hard to form, and I was running out of breath while speaking.
So it started in your speech, and they diagnosed the ALS then?
No, that wasn't until November 29, 2012, 5 months later. And that is the typical time period it takes to diagnose Lou Gehrig's disease. Most medical people are not trained in recognizing the early symptoms, and it would certainly help if they were. There is no cure, but at least that victim could get a jump on the process of dealing with it if the diagnosis came sooner.
Why do you think this training and recognition of symptoms isn't common?
Well, it's an uncommon disease, a neurological disorder, so I suppose if you're not in the neurology field, it isn't the first thing that comes to mind. I went to the family doctor and he sent me for a CAT scan, thinking a stroke, which is a reasonable thing to think. The scan came back clear, no problem. Then, because I had never had a colonoscopy, he ordered that and added on a scope of my throat, maybe looking for a cancer or voice box problem. It was the gastro doctor that said, "You don't need me, you should go see a neurologist," so I made that appointment. He did. I forget, an EMG or something with initials which tests nerve and muscle responses, and then he sent me to see Dr. Zachary Simmons at the Hershey Medical Center Neurological Department. So now, almost 6 months later, it was Dr. Simmons that gave us the bad news.
What did you do then?
First you cry, then you decide to fight or sit around and wait to die. I decided to fight. I should say we decided, meaning my lovely wife Debbie. She is first the love of my life and wife. Now I am afraid she is also taken on the task of being my main caregiver, which grows harder as the disease progresses. I have also discovered now that she is part angel. She has been there at my side for all I have been doing to fight this horrid disease.
And how do you fight a disease with no cure?
With everything and anything, is how I do it. The average life expectancy is 2 or 3 years after diagnosis. Medically, there is only one approved drug to help slow the progression, Rylatic, and it only extends one's life a few months. It costs $1,400 a month for 2 pills a day. That is crazy, and a reason why we also support the Modern Cures Act before Congress. In a nutshell, the Modern Cures Act gives drug companies additional years of protection for a patented formula beyond the patent's expiration.
Don't drug companies make enough money already?
Well, this is only for certain drugs, those found to have potential to be effective against deadly diseases or for a rare disease where there aren't a lot of customers. They have to apply for their formula patent early in development, then it can take 10 or more years of testing, drug trials and approval before getting to the marketplace. By then, their patent is almost run out and doesn't give them much time to recoup their investment. Unfortunately, it comes down to money. After all, they are in business. In addition to all that, with this added protection, they may be inclined to start work again on a formula they already have, but had been put on the back burner because they just didn't have the money. So support the Modern Cures Act. It will also be beneficial to Parkinson's, Alzheimer's, muscular dystrophy, autism, cancers, and more deadly diseases. Mostly, though, I pray for a miracle, divine intervention, or that some obscure underfunded scientist, doctor, or university neurology department will have a breakthrough.
Well, what more practical steps are you taking to save or at least extend your life?
I resent that a little bit. God is real. There are some documented cases of reversible ALS. It had to be divine intervention. But since you asked, first I do everything my doctors say, and do it in the way they say. Right now it seems to be all about symptom control. The disease affects each individual in a different way. Some it's loss of arm and hand usage, others legs and feet, some speech and uncontrolled laughing and crying. So you want to control as best you can your own symptoms. The medical team at Hershey is wonderful at that, especially at the beginning when you don't know quite which way to turn. They are associated with the ALS Association of Philadelphia chapter and with the team of doctors, nurses, social workers, therapists, dietitians and all. They let you know your options and guide you through the various steps in obtaining what you need to be as self-sufficient as possible. Equipment to help you walk, talk, such as this iPad and how to use it. They're also very good at planning ahead, such as noticing I was favoring my left leg, and they said you should get a brace and guided me through the process. About the time I received it, my left foot had dropped and I needed the brace to keep me walking as best I could. Also working with insurance companies or Medicare and Social Security, or in my case getting started with the Veterans Administration. Just steering you in the right direction for your individual needs. Secondly, I keep informed and try to pass on anything I learn to other pals. I am constantly researching possibilities. Again, Dr. Simmons and all of Hershey keep on top of any new developments. Also, here again, the ALS Association, I am under the Philadelphia chapter, are a wealth of information on what is going on in treatments, symptom control, drug trials. They also are incredibly active in awareness, advocacy, fundraising for care and equipment for comfort, and to help fund promising research that is underfunded. They are there for us, and I keep a close relationship with them and try to give back as much as possible by spreading the word, fundraising, advocating to people in decision-making positions, participating in their programs, and just help out as I am able. I have not met in my lifetime the number of dedicated people as there had just a year since my diagnosis. And I make sure that anybody who takes an interest knows exactly what is going on with me. I don't hide this, I flaunt it, I've thrown myself out there and I will push on to move forward. Anything I do is submitted with photos to our newspaper here, the Ephrata Review, and Andy Fosnick, the editor, has been so generous in giving us coverage. Almost every week there is something. So again, keeping it out in the public eye. Spreading hope and possibilities. I took a research advocacy training class sponsored by Drexel University, the ALS Hope Foundation, and NEALS, the Northeast ALS Association out of Massachusetts General Hospital in Boston. I was shocked to learn that nationwide only 10% of ALS patients participate in research. I mean, why wouldn't you help yourself by helping others? That figure is not accurate for this area due to the great work of all these places I have mentioned, but nationwide it is a different story.
Why is that, do you think?
I just think that for me, with Hershey, Philadelphia, Mass General, Washington, D.C., the Lebanon VA Medical Center, and Duke University. If you gotta have this horrid disease, this is the place to have it. That's not to say there aren't fine centers throughout the country with people dedicating their lives and careers to beating this thing. There most certainly is. Here in southeastern PA it's just concentrated and convenient.
How do you get more people to participate in research?
I think the first thing that has to be said and is widely misunderstood is that research is not all about clinical drug trials or medical procedures of some sort. Much is, and very useful information comes from them, whether a success or failure. Perhaps some are scared away or don't meet the criteria for the trial. But again, research is not just that. It's going to clinic every time so your progression can be monitored and documented. It is joining the National ALS Registry and if a veteran also the Department of Defense Registry. You just fill out a survey every 6 months. The information gained from these can show similarities in patients, in their work or lifestyle, exposure to similar environments, cluster areas of patients, speed of progression. All very useful in perhaps narrowing down a cause which could lead to a cure. This is another reason we were meeting with Congressmen during Advocacy Day last May, to ask for support and funding of the National ALS Registry. It actually was more like Advocacy Week. We had a lot of meetings. Also, you can participate in the biodepository. This is so simple and they come to your home to do it. It's just a blood sample, nail clippings, a few locks of hair. All again used to perhaps identify similarities in patients. Only takes about an hour in your living room. You can watch a couple of Lucy shows while they do it. Also, you could be part of a webinar and ask a question of the guest speaker. Find out from your ALS association what they are pushing for right now and write a letter to your local representative asking for their support. There are so many little things to be part of, and if the other 90% would join in, maybe we could make some real progress. This thing has been around since the late 1800s, not much was done. Until the 1990s. More has been discovered in the past 15 years than in the previous 100. It is time for a breakthrough and your information can help. Please join in the fight by participating in research. Help yourself by helping others.
Is there information online for somebody looking?
Yes, all this is available through your area or the National ALS Association website. And Neil's is a lot of trial information, as does the Center for Disease Control government site.
I guess I meant research information. I have seen people claiming to have cures or pills to slow it down or stem cell procedures that have worked in other countries.
Yes, there is a lot of that too. That's why I mentioned Duke University. I heard a neurologist speak at the Washington Advocacy Day that was from Duke, and he knocked my socks off. He was the first neurologist I had heard or spoken to that talked about possibilities and didn't automatically discount alternate paths of treatment or to a cure. Dr. Richard Bedlick is his name. He is also head of neurology at the Durham Veterans Medical Center. I spoke from the audience in Washington, but I had the pleasure of meeting him again when me and Debbie went to that research advocacy training I spoke of earlier. He was there for the full 3-day program. Now we converse through Facebook and email. A genuinely nice guy you can come right up and talk to, a great sense of humor and truly dedicated to making a difference. Anyway, on your question, Dr. Ihde has a website named ALS Untangled, and its purpose is to separate the truth from fiction in claimed treatments and cures from around the world. A desperate person will spend any amount of money if they think they will be cured, so his team of doctors and scientists that delve into each submitted possibility prevent that, but also bring out the truly helpful. A doctor that is heavy into research as well. I like him. I submitted for ALS Untangled to Research Night, an allergy elimination technique I go to once or twice a week. The object is to relieve your body of any possible allergens through exposure and then avoidance. Once clear, then to expose any possible viruses that may be inherited but laying dormant. If your body is attacking these which are harmless to you, then your body is using up that which fights disease which could be better used elsewhere, or it may even be attacking itself thinking it is protecting itself. As a boy, my father had tuberculosis and typhoid. He was in a Catholic hospital in Jersey City. Back then they all wore black. They told his parents, my grandparents, that he wouldn't live through the night. Awakening in the middle of the night, a figure in white was at the foot of his bed. The next morning they could find no sign of typhoid, completely clear. That is a true story. I also take a regimen of vitamins and supplements, and have cranial sacrotherapy done to keep the brain fluids moving and also connective tissue massage so at least any message that is sent through my system from the brain has a chance of getting to its intended muscle. I know, you're thinking quackery, witch doctors and medicine men. But these are people I know or that have been recommended by friends of 50 years. They are highly trained and dedicated to their skills and take a true interest in helping me. Is it a cure? They don't claim it to be. Will it extend my life? Certainly as much as my $1,400 a month pill does. And why not try it? Avoid being reckless, but why not try anything if you were able? Right now it's working as good as anything out there. Time is not on our side.
It sounds like you are really busy. Do you find time for fun?
Oh sure, we do lots of stuff. We eat out more than ever before. On Friday nights we just pick a town and drive around in it until we find someplace we have never been before and eat there. So far every place we found has been great. We went to Kansas to visit my brother and sister and families. That was our first experience with a wheelchair and an airline. It went well. Went to the beach a couple of times. We have a condo in Sarasota, Florida, so we like to go there, usually drive. I like to go see my music friends at the open mics I used to play and sing it. Although sometimes that just makes me sad, missing doing that. We go to concerts and community events. We do lots of fun stuff. I had to close my studio because of this disease. I was a professional photographer for 32 years. And now Debbie closed her beauty salon after 42 years in business so she can help me. We were in the same building which we owned, so we sold it, and pretty much the past few months we have just been clearing that out. My mother passed away in March and I cared for her for 10 years, and my dad for 8. But all that is done now, so we will be doing much more fun stuff in the near future.
Are there things you miss most?
Oh yes. Being physically useful around the house and taking care of the yard. Golfing. I was in a golf league every Wednesday with my guitar partner Lou. Really miss that bunch of guys. Singing and playing guitar. I wrote a lot of songs, many faith-based. They are all on my YouTube site IHDESTUFF. I can though still play bass with the praise team every Sunday, and I am teaching myself lap steel slide guitar because the ALS is moving into my arms and fingers now and I can't form the chords. You have to adapt and be inventive to achieve tasks. Just to jump in the water would be great. Dancing close with Debbie, although it usually took a little coaxing to get me up. These are a few of my favorite things.
You must have to be pretty strong to live with this disease.
Mentally strong, yes, and physically as long as you can. They are always talking about conservation of energy so you don't fatigue yourself, and this is true. Your muscles just seem to evaporate into thin air. Eating becomes more of a chore than a pleasure. But you have to try and keep your weight up, and you do this by eating everything thought's bad for everybody else. It's survival of the fattest.
And what about family and friends? How do they act around you? How are they taking it all in?
Wow. That sounds like a whole other interview. Better to ask them if you want to know their deepest thoughts. To me, they have been totally committed to my well-being and health. They love me and I have to have that. One thing I don't like, and I am not naming any names, is when somebody talks about you in the third person and I am sitting right there. Another is when someone gets down in your face and talks at you loudly and slowly, like I am hard of hearing, or mentally challenged, or from another country and don't speak English. I often have to tell people, I am still Dave, I am the same person, I just can't walk or talk.
I have been hearing you mention the VA during our talk. Have they been a help to you?
Oh yeah, they have been wonderful. In February 2012, the Department of Defense declared ALS a service-connected disease, so I now have a 100% disability rating for care through the VA and a lot of help too through the PVA, Paralyzed Veterans Association. Don't ask me why, because I don't know. I told you before about veterans being more likely to get Lou Gehrig's disease. There are those that ask, what do they know that they aren't telling us? It took a long time to declare effects of Agent Orange and post-traumatic stress disorder. But hey, I am not gonna bite the hand that feeds me. I get 100% primary medical care, eyes, dental, health, colonoscopies, x-ray, everything. Although I still like Hershey for my ALS care, I get all my symptom control items through the Lebanon Veterans Medical Center. Medications and dietary supplements $2,000 a month, my leg brace $1,300, this iPad I use to speak with now, special shoes, home health care, doctor, nurse, social worker, chaplain plus a personal care aide twice a week. My power wheelchair about $20,000 and a conversion van so I can get the chair in, another $19,000. Ramps for my steps and entryways to my home so I can get around, health and sleeping aids like grab bars and raised toilet seats. Everything. I ask for it and they give it to me and quickly. The VA is wonderful. I also receive disability pay and Social Security, which is a godsend since we were both forced to close our businesses. It would be a lieutenant cheaper for the DoD if they would find a cure.
That is amazing. And all veterans suffering from ALS receive this?
Yes, any veteran from any era of service. I like to bring all this up, not in bragging, but because we are blessed to receive all this. And now add all that up for non-veteran ALS patients. How do they do it? The financing, insurance, bureaucratic red tape, places to get this kind of stuff, the care and comfort, guidance through the hardest times. This is a physically, mentally and financially devastating disease. How you can pay for all this and still have a home to live in, I don't know. And again, this is where the ALS Association is important. They know the answers to these questions and how to get it all done. They also have been wonderful and are a sincerely dedicated group of people.
So what is next for you?
I guess keep on keeping on. Doing all I can to stay as healthy as possible and help others do the same. The other day I saw a billboard from LeSean Shady number 25 McCoy. Not only is he a great running back for the Eagles, but also one of our greatest advocates and fundraisers. His grandmother passed away from ALS. We met at one of his events in Lancaster, met in the elevator, and he pushed me around the stadium in my wheelchair. He is a great guy. Anyway, what are the chances of this happening? I am going down the turnpike, and at the Doylestown exit is an electronic changing billboard. You know the message changes every few seconds. So I am getting to this billboard, and all of a sudden there is Shady number 25 up there, and his message was, "Every fall, we rise." You don't have to kick me in the head to get it. This was a clear sign. I will push on to move forward.